everybody. This is Juan. Me and Anthony, we're going to interview our coaches, Sensei Philippe, we're going to Sensei Brian, and Ramiro, because they competed at the Veterans World Championship. So this is a very interesting experience for Hollywood Judo because this is the first time we really sent people to this tournament. So this is Sensei Philippe's first time going in and actually coaching. Brian actually won the tournament. He's gone multiple times now to go compete. And it's the first time Ramiro actually competed. So it's the first time experience for him fully. So Sensei Philippe, can you please tell us about your experience going to a tournament, having these guys ready, coaching them, and just the whole thing?
There was a lot that went into this. So first, when you register, there's so many things you have to think about. You have to register your hotel through the IJF, 2 nights minimum. And if you stay 4 nights, you can actually register the other 2 nights on your own. But mandatory, you have to go through IJF, and they charge a lot more than if you would just go straight to the hotel. It's one way the IJF makes money, I guess, and they also put on a great show. They have a lot of, costs that goes into this. But it was a wonderful experience for me from the checking in to gi control, I'll tell you about that later, to the actual competition. That was so different from what I was used to when I was younger. I mean, there's music playing, there are loudspeakers. It's like a show, really. And so Vegas was probably appropriate for that. But overall, I had a wonderful experience from the beginning to the end. Yeah.
And Brian, how was your experience this time competing in the U.S. for your second time now? Because you competed in Florida last time it was here, but this time it was in beautiful, lovely Viva Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it had been 8 years since I competed in 2016, which I also won that competition.
That was in Florida, right?
That was in Florida, yeah. And the IJF does a really good job. They do tend to kind of squeeze every penny out of their competitors that they can. But this particular competition had almost 1,500 competitors from 67 countries. So really well represented around the world. And it was a really, really excellent competition. For me, I've always worked on the premise that if I live long enough and stay small enough, I won't have anybody to compete against. Okay. And unfortunately, they found some people that were my size and my age.
How many were in your weight class this time?
I had 7 in my weight class.
7 this time.
Yeah.
And world champion, he won. He beat everybody.
I did, yeah. So I had 3 matches. Under 5 people, they do a round robin. So one person would have matches against everyone. And then in that case, they give 3 medals, a first, second, and 1 third. When it's 6 or above, then it's a repechage system like they have at the Olympics or any other international competition. So there was one pool, or actually 2 pools. I won one pool, another competitor won the other pool, and we met in the finals. And that was the outcome. But I fought competitors from Germany, from Moldavia, and from
France.
And yeah.
And you beat the French guy, and the French guy he won last year's?
Actually, I think the Moldavian won last year, but they have both won world championships. I think each of them have 7 or 8 places in the world championships, a couple of firsts, couple of seconds, couple of thirds.
Wow.
But they were, since I hadn't competed in 8 years, they didn't know me. They were like, they were unhappy and a little surprised, I think.
I think they're surprised that American beat them. Like,
That's
America's
right.
not supposed to good judo.
Yeah,
What's this?
They were very unhappy with that. But hey.
Well, they didn't know Brian, and also there are no videos of Brian on the IGF, profile. So we were able actually to go and watch some of their matches, these guys, because they had competed recently. So we were able to come up also with a good strategy because we could see what they did. So which is an advantage for us, a disadvantage to them. And that was also a big help, I thought. And because back in the day, we didn't have video to record or watch. So it can go both ways. Depends what side you're on, right? So if you're a coach and you're a competitor, you look up your competition, you can see most people do the same things, the same pattern. So it's helpful. It's really helpful. But they didn't have anything on Brian, so
No,
I thought that was good.
Yeah, definitely. And Sensei Philippe was a terrific coach, was there, took care of me, took care of the other competitors from Hollywood Judo, and made sure that we were talking about, going through gi control.
Oh, yeah, that.
Sure that, you have to have a gi that is certified by the IJF, which is another way that the IJF gets a little extra cash. But they're very strict on, the size, the fit, the way that it closes, and if you don't have it right, you either are out of the tournament or you have to get another gi. And but Sensei was right there for that as well.
Before we talk about gi control, I want to ask Hamito about how his how your bracket was and how the whole, because this is your first time.
Yeah,
right?
how was it for your first time going to compete?
Well, it's a new experience, totally different than the tournaments I used to compete here in LA, local tournaments. I felt like the level of the competitors was way higher, than what I'm used to. It was a great experience competing with people from other countries, different techniques, different styles of fighting. And for me, it was awesome. I can say that was a big show, a little bit stressful because of, like the sensei said, gi control, they were checking everything, even with infrared to see if the gis are legit or they are counterfeit. So it was a totally new experience. Felt like walking into the Olympics, with all that control, and everybody waiting in line. So for me, it was great. In my bracket, there were 35 guys. 35 guys. I never imagined I would fight in a tournament with 35 guys in my bracket, in the Masters division. But was an awesome experience, and I'm planning to go again next year in Tokyo.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to congratulate you because you actually won your first match.
Yes.
And that's good because there's a lot of people that don't win their first match. Just
Yes.
spend all the money, go out there,
Yes.
and lose their first match, and they're done. So you at least got one IGF win.
Yes.
You can say that the rest of your life, I at least got one IGF win.
Yeah, and I'm planning to get more.
All right.
All right.
Hamiro did really well because not only was it a competition, like he says, the age gap in his category, all the categories are 5 years, right? So he had 35 guys in his group, and there's so much that is for the first time. The gi control, the walking out, the loudspeakers, it's really like a show, and it's a lot to take in. So it's not just the matches themselves, it's everything around that I think he did a great job dealing with. But Brian's been there before, but it was the first time for Hamiro, and he dealt with it really well. Yeah.
Now, sorry.
I was going to say, we also had another member, Chanzan, go compete.
Yes.
And sadly, her division got cut in half, so they pushed her up to another division.
Well, she competes for Mongolia. She's a member in our dojo since 7 years. So I've been training her here for 7 years, but she still competes for Mongolia. Now, she's very light. She only weighed in at 44 kilos in category up to 48. Now, there were only two in her category, her and another, so they moved them up to 52 kilos. So that means that the girls she was fighting now, they were almost 20 pounds heavier than her. And that for such small people, that's really a lot.
Yeah.
So,
That's before we account for after weigh-in, they gain more weight back.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, she was unlucky that way, but she's a great judoka and she will be back. Yeah.
And how was the weight situation for you guys? I know you both had to fly out there while cutting weight and weigh in the day before. Was weighing in easy? Just show up, weigh in, or were there long lines? Do you see a lot of people butt booty naked?
Thanks God, no. But Sensei, you go first.
Yeah, I actually weighed in underweight by about 3 pounds, and, which is pretty much my MO. So, the thing is, when I'm in shape and I'm training hard, I'm about the right weight. And I usually cut a couple of pounds of water weight the day before just to be careful. And then I get on the scale and I'm lighter than I should be. So that's kind of my MO.
I'm usually the same way. I'm usually very nervous. When it's legit, full weigh-ins, day before, national stuff, I'm always a couple kilos under. And Philippe's like, why do you lose so much weight? Because I'm nervous.
Yeah.
Amateur hour, you got to be just below. You got to
That's one of the differences between judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu is in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you weigh in with the gi just before you step on the mat.
Yeah.
So there's
You
no
can hydrate.
there's none of that. I mean, you're at that weight and that's what you fight at.
So that's what I was going to ask next, because Brian here is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and Hamito, you're still a purple belt.
Yeah,
if I
purple
remember.
belt, yes.
And you both competed in tournaments, is that correct? So I don't know how high or how prestigious some of the tournaments are, but how would you compare the atmosphere there to the biggest Jiu-Jitsu tournaments you've been to? Because I know some of the biggest Jiu-Jitsu tournaments come here to LA and Las Vegas sometimes.
Yeah, so there are a couple of differences. One, so I've competed at and won at the World Championships and at Pan American Games. In the Pan Am Games, I fought in the open weight division and won against two guys that were both, one was 6'5" and 220, the other was 6'1" and 240.
Oh, small
But
guys.
they're your age,
Small
but-
guys?
Your
My
age,
age,
though.
my age, yeah. But
No, they're 20-year-olds.
one I choked out, the other I beat on point. But there are a couple of differences. One is I found the World Championship in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu here in the United States is not nearly as international. So there are, Brazil comes, Japan comes, you get a few other individuals from different countries, but you don't see the kind of really international teams that come from all over the world as you do at the IJF. The other thing is that it is a huge tournament for.
Sorry, continue. So it's not as sorry for that interruption. It's not as international as
Not as international, but several things. The organization itself for the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is really pretty excellent. They make it more enjoyable for the spectators. Judo is not generally a spectator-friendly sport.
which is funny because I usually hear the opposite.
Yeah, no, it's not. And they, things that they give to the competitors. You get a
Rash guard.
Yeah, and you get a T-shirt, and you get a magazine, and and so they do a lot to try and bring the competitors, and they are as big as the biggest judo tournaments. But this particular competition, the World Championships, and particularly this one, they made it an event. They, talking about, speaking about the finals where, they did it where everybody came out at the same time, where we came into music, where everybody walked in, and there was an announcement.
It was like a Rocky movie.
Yeah, it was really, really very exciting on that level. And you don't quite get that same feeling in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's a little looser, a little freer, not as strict in terms of that.
We have to ask our resident Brazilian how he feels about that.
Well, I kind of agree in some points that Sensei Brian just made. For example, in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament, the Pan Americans here, they're big tournaments, and also the Worlds, mostly of the competitors are Americans and Brazilians, and a few other foreigners. But when you go to a judo international tournament like the Worlds, we did people from all over the world, USA, Brazil, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, France, Italy,
Sweden.
Japan, all over the world. So I felt like it was a real international tournament, a real world's tournament. I felt like,
It's a very American thing to call something that only they really do, like the World Championships.
Don't get Philippe started.
And also everybody are very friendly at veterans tournaments, not like the senior and junior tournaments the same way. The veterans, they see each other year after year. A lot of them know each other. Brian knew a lot of, especially the American players. And I got to know people, and everybody's very friendly. It's like a family spirit, right? I spoke to French coaches, Swedish coaches, Brits, and I spoke to a lot of foreigners, and it was just super open-arm friendly, right? And even between the players, during the matches and after the matches, there's much more politeness and hug and, encourage each other, more so at veteran tournaments than regular
I
tournaments.
think it's really rare for us to hear about fights breaking out in judo tournaments. I mean, especially recently with Teddy, like it has happened.
Yeah.
But I think in jiu-jitsu tournament, it's like you see it on Instagram.
You slammed me too hard or something.
I haven't experienced that in either.
You haven't experienced that?
No,
Okay.
not in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
So, Sensei Philippe, you've coached at the local tournament, you've coached now at national tournaments, now you've coached international tournaments. How's the difference in coaching all these different divisions, different styles?
There's so much more detail. But now we can actually talk about the gi control, because that was the biggest difference. So 15 minutes before one of these guys are up to compete, we have to calculate about 15 minutes before how many matches, and then it's time to go to gi control. So they get in line, they go to gi control, which takes a few minutes, depending on how long the line is, right? And then after gi control, they get into the hold, it's called, and then on deck, right? And then they go out to the arena and fight. But if you miss those 15-minute windows, you risk actually not making it out to the mat, and you get disqualified. Now, after they compete, their first match, we go back around and we come into the warm-up room and we start checking again, white gi or blue gi, and we start checking when is their next match.
Yeah.
And 15 minutes before the next match, you go again to gi control. So there's gi control between every single match. That I had never seen. I was not used to that. I knew they did that at the Olympics and places like that. But to be there and experience it, and also as a coach, I felt that's my job to keep track of when is next, and so on. That was a big difference.
Was there a big thing about, like, you keep on saying like 15 minutes or 9 matches before? If you went too early, would they tell you like not to go?
They wouldn't let you in.
They wouldn't let you in.
No, because then the line is too long.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And
So you have to time everything. That was actually one of the biggest parts of my job, I thought, and something new for me.
Did you see anybody like miss their matches because of gi control? Or
I saw some people that were late in, and then their gi wasn't fitting. So there's a rack at gi control room. There's a rack of gis that IGF has, loaner gis. So if they can accommodate you, they will. But there were not that many gis, so they weren't able to accommodate every single person. And if you weren't able to fit into an IGF gi, then you go home. That's it.
and they would bring out the stick and put your hand in there and stuff.
They did all that, and like Hamiro said, they shine a light on the infrared to see if it's counterfeit or real or. Yeah.
There were competitors who missed their matches.
Yeah, there were. Yeah.
So if this is your first time going to a tournament like this, how was it like getting your back patch put on and checking your gi? Were you nervous about checking your gi?
It wasn't cheap.
Yeah, it wasn't cheap.
Yeah.
I honestly thought I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna just chill, maybe go to the pool, but it was no chill at all. We went there, gotta go to the weight, check the weight, and then we waited about an hour and a half just to check the registration, to check the hotel. And then we went to put the patches on the gi and walk around. It was very stressful.
Tell them how much you paid for the patches.
Just $100.
Yeah.
In total? It was
Total,
Yeah.
$50 for each patch.
Just to sew the patch on.
just
50 per patch.
And then when it comes to patches,
It was $20 per patch.
I'm going to tell
Yeah.
Anthony, we the Anthony's part right here. So Anthony, how was it getting the patch?
Okay, so it was $20 to buy them, but it was 50 to sew them on.
Yeah.
Each.
There's only 2 places in the world that supply back patches.
2 companies that you're allowed to supply.
All right.
Well,
So
it's like
yeah.
the gis. There's I think half a dozen gi manufacturers that are approved by the IGF.
Yeah.
Those are the only places you can get a gi.
It's mafia. That's what it is.
We love IGF, Judo. Please don't. So Brian, how's it for you when you get, like, you're used to this stuff since you compete internationally?
Well, I mean, again, the last time I competed at the World Championships in judo was 8 years ago.
Did they have the same gi control every match?
No,
No.
they didn't. It was a slightly different thing. It wasn't quite as pomp and circumstances as it was here. Yeah, they did have like big screens where you could see who was coming up, for fights, but they didn't have a control room. They didn't have gi control. None of that. You did have to have an IGF gi, but they weren't. Other than the first time they looked at it, that was it.
Okay.
But so I can't say I'm used to it. I haven't done it that much. But my rule is if it's in the neighborhood, I'll compete. So if it's in the United States, I fought. Anytime I've competed, and so far, I mean, I've always placed. I've never not placed at the Worlds, but it's always been a different experience each time. And this was the most where you felt like, oh, this is a real thing. This is like they're taking this stuff. They're serious about this stuff. Yeah.
But by the time next time he comes back to the United States, you'll be 100 years old.
That's right. I won't remember it anyway.
So Sensei Philippe, you were one of the handful of American coaches that were there. Was it tough getting your credential from being a just national coach to an international coach?
No, that was fairly easy. We were 13 U.S. coaches at the World's Veterans, but there were some 260, I think, competitors from the U.S. So not everyone had a coach, but, it is what it is. They didn't seem to mind. And we spoke amongst us, the coaches, that we were available if somebody wanted us to coach them. And some of them did. I ended up not to. I coached 4 people, so that's it. But we were available if somebody needed a coach or wanted a coach. But some of the American competitors, they just competed on their own, I guess. I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
All right. And how was it being on the mat coaching them? Like, did you have to follow rules like when it says Hajime, you don't talk, Mate, you can't
Because they're
talk?
really loose about that in the multiple.
Well, initially I thought I'd keep my mouth shut, but then I saw that everybody else were yelling, so I started yelling too.
So they weren't that strict about it?
They weren't that strict about it, no. And I figured, if they want me to be quiet, they'll say something.
Okay.
So that went pretty loosely.
They did on a couple of occasions, not,
Yeah.
not on any matches I was on.
Right.
I did see them talk to the coaches and say, hey,
Whether-
and they would just calm down.
What was interesting is when Brian went in the final against the French guy, I was yelling at Brian, and behind me I had probably 50 Frenchmen yelling at the French guy, come on, come on, come on. And so I had to overpower my voice over them, 50 Frenchmen. So that was interesting.
That's actually good. Brian, did you hear anything Philippe yelled at you?
I don't know if he did.
I think subliminally.
yeah, I don't know if he did.
I don't know, how was it when you were being coached by Philippe? When
Did you
were out
hear me
there?
or
I
not?
heard some,
You
some
heard?
words,
Okay.
some words I heard.
All right.
The adrenaline was so high, but some words I heard, yeah. Yes.
Good.
So regarding the refereeing, how would you compare I don't want to use the word quality, but let's just say how they enforce the rules at that tournament compared to local tournaments?
You know, it's still match to match, referee to referee, jury to jury. It's different every match. And the consistency is still not 100%. I thought the quality of the refereeing overall was quite good. I didn't
agree.
see a whole
Yeah.
lot of calls where you went, and I say that mainly because I won.
As a winner,
But you are also a referee. You referee also. Yeah.
But I did think that the refereeing was quite good.
Yeah, I think so.
And but for instance, I had one match where they were very quick to call non-combativity
Yeah.
on the competitor.
We see that in the Olympics too.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
referees, yeah.
But then on other matches, not at all.
Yeah.
And so, there was one of our competitors in the U.S. who's won many competitions, a gentleman named Sandy North. He's actually won 10 world championships in the veterans and was given a special award by the IJF this year for his accomplishments. And he had in the finals a guy who, I don't know if he attacked once, and I think he got one non-combativity, but other than that, nothing. And Sandy beat him by Wazadi, I think, threw him with a Uchigari. But that was a match where I went, if they had refereed that the way my first match went, or second match went, it would have been over much earlier, much sooner. But, it is always a judgment call. And when you look at someone and you're watching as a referee, you're watching, not only are they attacking, but, why aren't they attacking? What's the movement? What's the intention? Are they intending to stall? Are they intending to block? Or are they trying to attack, and is it just not working? So you put all that into the mix, and it makes each match a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I thought the calls were generally very good. I thought they were very, the refereeing I saw seemed to be very crisp and very clean.
So back to the tournament, regarding the sign-up process, because I handled the sign-up for Philippe. And,
Thank you, by the way. We couldn't have done it without you. Yeah.
I will say USA Judo could do a better job making that a little easier. It was kind of like
I don't know why
pulling
it's still packets. I don't know why it's still packets.
I think
and
it's
stuff.
actually IJF. I don't think it's the U.S. Judo that has the issue.
I know I don't blame them about giving the information. It's just asking them. I asked them 2 questions and they respond me once, and then I would ask another question and then
Yeah, that's a problem.
they're not very responsive about answering my questions,
Yeah.
and the questions I've been asking should have been their job to ask, so
Right.
they can give it out to people
Right.
readily. So that's my only complaint, right?
Yeah.
But for you handled everything yourself. What was your experience like?
Not
Hotel
good.
sign up. Yeah. same thing.
So, for instance, they have this process, which is really a little strange, where you have to first get your hotel before you can do anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you have your hotel, then you say to them, look, I got my hotel. And then they say, okay, here's the link to register for the tournament.
Which is interesting because Philippe told me that there are people there that didn't do the hotel and they just asked them to pay the difference. Which
Yeah.
means you didn't have to do
Yeah, because now they had flown for 500 hours to get there and everything else. So, there was a way out. You paid $470 right away if you want to compete.
Yeah.
And some people were bitching about it in multiple languages and swearing and couldn't understand why, but it's because they didn't know how to read the instructions to begin with. So now they found themselves in this situation, and unfortunately, they had to pay like everybody else. Yeah.
So when I registered with the hotel, I wrote to everybody and said, hey, to the IJF, I have the hotel now, can I get the registration? They said, sure, here's the registration. Then I registered and I said, I don't see my name on the registration. They said, oh, then you have to talk to the US Judo. So then we talked to US Judo and they said, okay, did you pay? And I said, well, yes, I had to go through all that. But they never sent me a receipt.
Yep.
So I got
that's
to the
same experience for
yes,
me. Yeah.
I got to the hotel. They had my registration for the hotel, but when I went to weigh in and then register, they had two lines. They had a red and a green line. Green line, everything was okay. You went through, there was nobody. The red line was about 300 people, and I'm not kidding you, about 300
So you
people
went to the
in
red
line.
line?
Well, he had to. He had
I went
to.
in and said, okay, I'm all set. I paid everything, and they said red. And I went, for what? And they said, you owe $120. I said, for what? They said,
Yeah.
we don't know. I said, okay.
So Brian is sitting in the red line at the very end, so that means 4 hours wait.
4 hours.
So I went up to the IGF desk there where they had the accountants or whatever they are, and they served them people one by one, right? And there was a Swedish gentleman who was being served, and he didn't really understand what was going on, so I snuck in and I became an interpreter. And while I was interpreting, I said to the IGF lady, by the way, I have a guy here and I really need to deal with. And then I did this to Brian and he came up. So we bypassed.
We got lucky.
That was
About half an hour.
after half an hour. So we got service right away. If not, we would have been there another 4 hours.
Which, by the way, they never found my receipt. But they found 3 receipts for registering for the tournament and actually gave me $50 back. So none of it made sense to me whatsoever. There's just, that system has some bugs in it. And it should be, here, you pay the money, here's your receipt,
Yeah.
done,
Yeah.
basta. And that wasn't how it was. So that was difficult.
Was there any problem with yours at all?
No,
Or
because I
you were
handled
fine? Oh, because you handled it. You did it was fine. Okay.
No, he also had to go to the red line.
Yeah.
Why did you have to go to the red?
No, because when you registered the hotel for us,
Yeah, Anthony.
it was in my name.
But they made, this is why I asked USA Judo about this.
Okay, but then, so when he registered, my name wasn't there because I wasn't competing. So they said, oh, Red, you go over there. And so we went over and very quickly it was resolved because it was in my name. Well, an hour.
An hour.
Well, not very quickly.
Not very quickly.
Compared to 4 hours, it was...
You planned to go to the pool at that time. You couldn't go to the pool.
But there were literally people that sat
This is
there.
what I was afraid of because I emailed, the instructions were there. They're saying, get the hotel first. Here's the link. Fill out this form. Submit your medical passport and the hotel receipt to USA Judo. And that's basically the information. But the form is really confusing because they have a name for the coach up top and then the athletes at the bottom. So I asked them like, okay, do I fill it out one by one? Because that form assumes each athlete gets their own room.
Well, what I want to know is, because there were 68 countries there,
Yeah.
are these instructions translated into 68 different languages?
So in IJF, if you go into, no one knows it's on the website, but they have French, English, German, Spanish.
Okay, that's 6 languages.
They don't even have an Asian language.
I don't think I saw the Japanese on
What
it.
about all the other languages?
I don't know.
Okay.
So
Well,
maybe, yeah.
Google Translate.
So don't quote me on it, but there's few languages there.
Okay.
But the point is, the instruction to fill out the form was not clear. So I emailed them about it.
Excuse me.
For 2 months, they didn't answer me until I emailed them again. Then they replied and just say, fill out whatever, was basically what they said, which is why you ended up in the red
Yeah.
line.
Well, two days before I got there, starting a week before, I wrote to the U.S. Judo and said, hey, I don't have my receipt for the room. And they said, not our problem. Talk to IJF. Called.
So you don't, not the IJF, you have to talk to the event coordinator at the hotel.
No, they said talk to IJF.
Oh.
So I contacted the people from IJF that had originally said you have to have it, and said, hey, I never got my receipt. Nothing, crickets. So I wrote them again and said, I never got my receipt. Third day, they sent me my confirmation code.
Yeah, so I got the confirmation code, which is different from a receipt, by the
Yeah,
way.
I never got a receipt.
I never got a receipt.
Never
either.
received.
They said we'll send the receipt shortly. When I sent 3 emails.
Get it next year.
If IGF is listening right now, there is room for improvement.
There is improvement. But we love you guys.
But we do. We love you guys. Yeah.
Okay, so other than
Thank you for the gold medal.
How was the Rio? Because I know that a lot of complaints people had that when they figured out where the Rio was, like this is on the Strip? I thought this was on the Strip. No,
Let's
it's
start
off
with
the Strip.
because you go to Vegas pretty often, right? I mean,
Yeah, I wish it was on the Strip, you know, man.
Yeah.
But
So, like, how was it? Because Rio's off the Strip. There's only another hotel right next to it. If you want to go to the Strip, you got to get a cab or Uber or something.
Or drive, yeah.
How was the Rio at least? Was it like nice hotel room, nice venue?
My hotel room was really nice, but
Oh, yeah?
it was
Upgraded.
the Rio has recently been renovated. So it used to be where they would hold the World Series of Poker, and they moved that to the Paris and Bally's. But the poker players had gotten to the place where they didn't like it. I don't want to badmouth the Rio, but they didn't like it.
Hey, we're not going back. It's okay.
Yeah,
They come after
it
us.
was fairly run down, and it had gotten kind of tired. They're still in the process of renovating the place. So, for example, their gift shop was still under renovation. The pool was closed for the season.
Where would I
See,
get
you
my
might go to the
snow
pool anyways. It's closed.
They had it. The gym was
It's
like
tiny.
a little closet.
Yeah.
That's one weird thing. Like when I went to Vegas, it's funny. The difference between different hotels and their gyms can drastically change. Like some have like full weight rooms.
Oh, yeah.
You lift all stuff. Other ones just have like bike, treadmill, and then that's it. You know,
Yeah.
it's really weird.
Most of them, though, the bigger hotels, the nicer hotels, have like a spa with a real gym, and it's usually pretty nice.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother discussion to have.
How'd you like your hotel room?
well, it was all right. It was all right. Yeah, we got an upgrade, you know.
Yeah, we did an
complaints,
upgrade.
No
Upgrades,
complaints,
yeah.
It was good.
What was good, the convention center where the venue was held was nice, I would say. You know, the warm-up mats and everything, it was right there. It took 5 minutes walk to get there. You took the elevator down. It was there, so that was good. As far as everything else, for me personally, I was exhausted at night. You know, I had something little to eat and drink, and I went straight to bed because I had to get up early in the morning. I used to play slot machines, but they don't have that. It's all buttons, and I don't do that. So there was no entertainment other than these guys were my entertainment.
We went to a nice Italian restaurant
We did go to, yes, at the
in Caesar's Palace.
Caesar's Palace, which is nice. Very nice.
Carmine's.
Carmine's, very nice restaurant.
style, yeah.
Good pasta.
Big bowl.
Yes. Good company. Good wine.
now, so back to the competing. Did any of you have to pee in a cup?
No.
Did they check you? Did you notice them checking anyone?
No, I didn't see. I didn't hear of any
Especially,
drug
I
testing.
heard if you get a medal, usually they drug test you.
In the Olympics, they do. I think at the
Yeah.
this
I
age,
heard
they
they
think
did that
we're
at
all on
nationals,
some
too.
sort of drugs, and
I heard they did that. at
Brian doesn't
nationals.
look like he's on drugs,
nationals,
okay?
So the difference is, so when I was a kid, competing at nationals, the winners would often get, particularly, but when I was competing, and I was probably for you as well, when we were competing, when you won the nationals, that kind of put you on their team, on the national team. So those competitors were going to go internationally. So when I was a kid, there would always be that one guy who mysteriously didn't show up for the finals. I wonder what happened.
Yeah.
But,
I didn't expect you to do this well.
Yeah, he didn't want to be in a cup.
No, we had to pee in the cups, but I think at the veterans, because people are so old, they don't want them to pee in the cup because it takes too long for them to pee.
Not only that, but also they figure we're on all kinds of. I
Yeah.
didn't see any testing.
And
Because one of the previous guests, Carrie, mentioned one of her students competed in a novice division at nationals and got 3rd place or 4th place or something, and they made him pee in the cup.
well, seniors and juniors, I think it's a different deal. But veterans, you know, some of them are on testosterone replacement and all kinds of stuff, medications, you know. So,
Peanut cup?
you know,
I did not pee in a
I don't
cup.
care.
to analyze that pee, you need an encyclopedia.
I didn't see anybody.
I didn't see anything like that. No drug testing.
One
No.
other thing I noticed when I was I went to the 2019 World Championships as a spectator, and I stayed at the hotel the athletes were staying at. They actually made an effort because they had a board up and told you like, competitors get on this bus to the venue this time, referees go here, and they made sure to separate the referees and competitors to make sure there's no. Like,
Canoodling?
yeah. So did you see any of that happen? Any sort of that kind of thing happen?
The separation of
the separation.
They didn't make any concerted effort, but I know quite a because I referee. I know
Yeah.
quite a few of the referees from America, and I really didn't see them. They were kind of off to themselves, but it wasn't. I don't think it was anything that was pre-planned or orchestrated. I think just they had. I think probably they had meetings every day, and then they would go directly to wherever they were being held, and on their mats. So, and they did have spectators and competitors on one side of the venue, and then all of the announcers and all of the
Officials on the other side.
So that was the way that they set it up. They didn't really make a huge effort to keep them separate, as far as I could see. What about you, Philippe?
No, and also, no, they didn't do that. And also, the spectator part, there were just a bunch of chairs put out at the same eye level, right? So there weren't like any like bleachers or like a real spectator area. And I missed that because it was such a magnificent event, with all the drumming and all the hype and all that stuff. But what was missing, if something was missing, was a lot of spectators. The spectators were the other competitors. They were not competing that day. Families, coaches, whoever was, with them in their company. But there was no outside spectators.
They didn't charge spectators.
No, they didn't. Yeah.
And judo has not made a concerted effort as a sport to be spectator friendly. And I kind of alluded to that with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where they do make an effort. And there's this was the first time I've seen any kind of PR marketing for judo. They had a young woman named Henning who was doing interviews with people. They had a few people that were doing interviews there. But generally speaking, Japan, which is sort of the core of judo, they like it being an elitist sport. They like that it has a certain kind of, secretive nature to it. And they don't necessarily want to bring people in to watch it, which is, I think, a big mistake.
Yeah.
When I went to the World Championships in Japan, all the spectator seats were full in the Budokan.
Yeah.
But that's in Japan.
Yeah.
And it's also the Senior World Championships, right? So, yeah.
Well, the
But
Olympics also.
Japan
Olympics are
and
full.
France,
Yeah, it's the Olympics.
There are some countries that have great programs. I mean, we all know Teddy Riner is, a huge star
in France.
internationally and particularly in France. Japan makes their judo competitors stars. We don't have that here. And we don't have, I mean, we're a country, how much larger than France, and we have, 1/8 the competitors here, and we don't have the support system. So it's a lot of different things. It's when I competed at the Dutch Open in 1980, 1970, 1980, I can't remember. And we had a guy who won at this tournament, a guy named Doug Tunnell, won a gold medal at the Dutch Open. It's the first time an American had won a gold medal at an international competition in Europe. And we were so excited, and there was no press anywhere. And I went to a phone and I called the AP and UPI, which were the two news organizations that take, and hey, an American won a medal, international medal. They went, yeah. In judo. And I said, I think we should do a story about that. And he's like, yeah, thanks, not interested. And that was it.
Oh, man.
Nothing, maybe some local stories were done about Doug in Chicago, but there was no press about it. Judo wasn't trying to we didn't have a press agent. We didn't have anybody that was a PR person. We didn't have anybody that was, writing articles or sending it into Black Belt magazine, judo, magazines, nothing. So we don't have a marketing machinery.
Why I always say we should have that.
At this point, although it's starting, I think we are starting.
I will say, based off of me being online all the time, USA Judo did a really good job of giving coverage to this event and the USA competitors compared to senior nationals or any of our international competitors going to the international circuit.
Yeah.
They just did a good, I wouldn't say great, but I was surprised.
They gave a lot of press out for you.
Yeah, there was some.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there's another post today about what happened, who competed, like who played what, like that was actually happening.
Yeah.
Which is
Well, once they stopped saying my name, I stopped. I didn't have any more interest.
I agree.
I had to fight
Me
for your
too.
name, Brian. I had to write down. Hey, what about Brian in there?
That's
okay.
all right. So, in terms of preparing for the tournament, let's start with Tomino. How did you do any sort of preparing other than weight cutting? Like in terms of did you show up to practice more often and do the same thing you always do?
He's here every day. What are we talking about?
Well, what was the difference? Like, did you do extra preparing? I know we did more fitness and stuff with you in the rounds, but did you feel different than like training for
Yes.
the locals and nationals compared to this?
Oh
world?
yes. I feel that for this tournament we train way harder, you know. And Sensei was also putting some fitness classes, you know, when I was coming to the class twice a week, and I felt, you know, it helped me a lot. You know, I improved my stamina and my self-confidence, because if you can last more during a fight, if you have more stamina, you know, it helps you out, works better. So I put more effort, and I think I learned a lot with this a lot of training too, that I have to control myself. We have to control ourselves sometimes to not overtrain, you know, try to find a balance too. But I felt like the training we did here was awesome, very good. And next time, let's do better.
In Randori, for example, he had a new opponent every 45 seconds here. We did a lot of kind of higher level training for Hamiro and for everybody.
You can't reveal all the secrets.
Yeah, you can't go. You want to learn secrets, come to the dojo.
It's not a secret. I mean, if that's a secret, you need to study more.
And Brian, how about yourself? Did you like intense your training?
I increased the number of hours that I was training. You know, I was doing as much as 8 hours of judo a week, and I was also training a little bit in Brazilian jiu-jitsu a couple of times a week, and then I would go to the gym at least 2 to 3 times a week and do aerobics, usually Tabata, where I was doing high intensity interval training. Not so much weights. And I figured I'm as strong as I'm going to get, but I was conditioning, you know, for that 2.5 minutes, looking for that 2.5 minute window and I felt pretty good.
And you went to golden score too.
Yeah, but I mean, I can do almost anything for 3.5 minutes. You know what I mean? So that's okay. That was fine.
There was also a difference in golden score. In Brian's category, golden score was 1 minute, and after that minute, if it wasn't a clear decision, there was a referee decision, right? In Hamiro's golden score went till somebody caved in.
One person.
Yeah.
So, what was the toughest match that you guys had? Like, if you had to name one match.
Boy, you know, the final was certainly the closest match I had. It was a pretty even match, and I didn't know which way it was going to go. It could have gone either way.
I knew where it was going. I knew you were going to win.
I felt like I was in none of the matches that I feel particularly threatened. You know, like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to throw me, or he has a really good, you know, waza that he was going to take me on, and I didn't have any issues with newaza. That was not a problem. So really, it was just a matter of, am I being the aggressor? Am I? There are things I learned, and I look at the video and things that I'll do differently the next time. I'm not turning enough in my throws to, you know, and I am at risk of getting a penalty for a false attack. And so if that had happened, it would have gone the other way. So those are things that I learned. So probably the French competitor was probably the toughest match, although he was not as strong as the guy from Moldavia. He was physically stronger, but he also didn't attack.
Yeah.
And you get penalized for that. So.
The French coach and I speak French, so they thought they were going to beat Brian, but we showed them, didn't we?
What about you, Javier?
I would say my first fight, the one I won, because we went to the golden score. You know, so and at the golden score I had 2 shidos, and the other guy, a guy from Canada, he had 1 shido. And the things we try here at the dojo were not working very well with him, so I had to start to improvise with trying other throws, you know, that I'm not used to apply. And sometimes the mind starts playing tricks on you, you know, oh my God, am I gonna make it? Am I gonna make it? But keep fighting, and suddenly the guy came for a kind of a hip throw, and I countered. And then the referee raised
Wazari, yeah. So
Wazari, and
that
I
was
said,
it.
wow. And
Thank God.
we learn lessons, you know, because even if things are hard, keep going. Even if I am afraid or I don't know if it's going to work out, but keep going. And in the first fight, my first match, it worked. Then I'm happy, you know. And unfortunately, the next match didn't work very well. But next year, for the Worlds, we'll be more prepared, you know.
So next year, speaking of, this is going to be my next question. Next year is in Japan.
Yeah.
Well, that's the rumor. Like we've had people already message us about like, you guys say something in Japan.
Well, everybody I talked to there kept saying it's in Japan next year. There was 5-6 different people that said so, so I just assumed that was true.
Yeah.
I don't think they were making it up, but maybe, I don't know. You know,
Maybe in Las
I didn't
Vegas.
make
Las
it up.
Vegas again.
Because
It
what
did so well.
Yeah.
So well, maybe they're going to bring back to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
No, I think Tokyo.
How many competitors did you say there was? 1,500?
1,500, yeah.
It's like 1,364 or something.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that includes
So
kata.
are you guys planning going next year or visiting Japan?
I'm thinking about
I'm
it.
thinking about it, yes.
Is the dojo paying for it?
We'll talk to the board about that. See what Luis says.
One of the blessings and the curses of being an older competitor is, you know, you can train as hard as you can train, but you have to be careful.
Yeah.
Because you know you're old and you're at a risk of injury that is probably higher than it would be for someone who is 20,
Oh, yeah.
30, 40, 50. so I say yes, and then we'll see if I'm still able to walk without a walker next year.
You know, when you get older, you don't plan a year in advance. You try to get through one day at a time,
I'm looking
okay?
at breakfast.
Yeah, seriously.
So, what was each of yours like full experience? Was it a great experience? Just give me your overall
Yeah,
experience.
and also, would you recommend other people who are thinking about it to do it, or?
100%. You know, this is one of the things that, you know, I look at the competitors who are in this tournament, and there are people from all levels of judo in terms of where they started from. There are guys. There's a guy named Ron Angus who is a national team member of Canada who's still competing, but then there's also guys that never won a major competition, and here's an opportunity for them to come back. We had a local sensei here named Nori Bunazawa, who
I know about him. Yeah.
Nori is a 9th dan. He was one of the best competitors in Japan in his youth. He was somebody who was in the mix for world and Olympic teams, but never made it. And instead of going for that goal, came to America. And he really had his sights set on this tournament as kind of like, this is my comeback after 58 years to make this world championship. And he competed and did very well. He ended up 3rd, lost in the division that Sandy North won, lost to the competitor who took 2nd. And partly because having not been in it for 58 years, there were rules and things he didn't quite understand. So he was in Newaza, and he thought didn't understand that the referee had called osaikomi. So he's in a pen for 10 seconds. He got, that was it. 8 seconds. So that ended up being the kinsa that became the decision for him. So those kind of things, if you're somebody, for me, it's motivating to keep me in shape beyond, what I should be in shape for at 64, 65, 66. How old am I? 66. At 60, the memory goes quick. But it motivates me to stay in shape.
Yeah.
It motivates me to be involved in the sport. I'm starting to spread out. I'm starting to do a little more refereeing and coaching and other things. So, but I think if anybody who has come to either been in the sport their entire life and has had that passion and drive to be a competitor, that it's a great way to kind of keep your hand in. And for those people who started late, like Ramiro, he's been doing judo 12 years, but he wasn't 5 or 6 or 10 when he started.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity for him to taste that same sort of glory and competition. So I think anybody who has an interest, just make sure you're taking care of your body. Don't take it too seriously. This isn't the Olympics. But you should go and you should train for it and try and, do your best.
Yeah, well, I agree. I think it is a great experience, for all of us, for the competitors. And my only recommendation, if you plan to go to this international World's Veterans competition, is very good if you start preparing, not only physically, but also mentally, because it's a competition, it's another level. And I suggest people start with local tournaments to start to warm up, instead of just go, okay, I'm going to the Worlds right away. No, prepare yourself. Let's say, give me 1 year of preparation. I'm going to compete locally. I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to start to prepare myself mentally, because it's a new experience when you're going to fight guys from all over the world, different backgrounds, some very experienced, very skilled, others not so experienced, not so skilled. So I think it is a very good opportunity to test yourself, see how tough or how bad you are. I don't know, just go to know yourself and see. I think just the fact that someone steps in this tournament shows a lot of character, a lot of strength, a lot of determination, because a lot of people say they want to do something, but they never do, you know. So I respect everyone who goes to these competitions, because we don't see kids anymore. We see people 30 and up, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, you know. So I have a lot of respect, and I suggest if you want to do it, if you have the time, commitment, the money, go for it.
Yeah, the money is it's not cheap, right? So that's one aspect of it. But it's also, you find, you know, I talk to a lot of people there. Many of them traveled with their spouse or their families, and so on. So they combine it with a vacation. So you can. It's usually they place these tournaments in a place where you can also have a vacation. So many of the Vegas people I spoke to in Vegas, they were going to come to LA and make it like a vacation in LA, go visit the film studios and things like that. So that's another aspect. So if you do go, make sure you add another, 5, 6, 7 days and go see something.
A lot of money.
Yeah, it's going to cost even more money, yeah. But so make it also an adventure, vacation. Maybe not just make it all about that competition day, right? Since you're traveling there anyway, see other things. Yeah.
All right. Do you want to ask them a competition question, each of them?
No, I thought we went over everything.
No. So we usually just ask this question to people
that one. Yeah.
If people come on our podcast, we interview them, and we ask them one question. And Brian, you could actually do this. You should have got this one there. So the question is that you're in the finals. It's the World Championships, which you guys all went to already. What song would you like to come out to? Brian, what would the song be for you to come out to?
Well, I think it's got to be something from Rocky, doesn't it?
Is it Rocky? You want something from Rocky?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah? Just anything from Rocky or just anything specific?
I think it's...
You want Eye of the Tiger?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
You want
that's
that
the
one?
Yeah.
Ramiro, what do you like? What would you like to come out in?
I have to think about it.
Yeah?
I never thought about it.
Some Brazilian.
Maybe some Brazilian.
Some samba music,
Samba
maybe?
music, the drums, yeah. I have to think about it. Yes, I'll come up with something.
Sensei Philippe, you came out of retirement. Your hip's good. You're only going to do Tachiwaza. You're going to World Championships next year. What are you coming out to?
ABBA,
ABBA?
maybe.
Yeah, okay.
Or Light My Fire.
My Fire.
Jose Feliciano, Light My Fire.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe ABBA singing Light My Fire, if we can find that. Yeah. That'd be cool. Something like
I
that.
guess like AI.
Yeah, I certainly did, yeah.
You got any ideas yet?
No, not yet. I'll come out next year. I'll have some.
You have a year to think
I have
about
a
it.
year to think about it.
All right, well, thank you guys for coming on the show. We greatly appreciate
Thank you.
it. We really appreciate what you guys did for the dojo, Sensei Philippe going out there, coaching and doing all this. Thank you guys. And thank you everyone for watching. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.